Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joe Justice. I'm currently in Tokyo, and there's an amazing sunset with Mount Fuji behind me. I'm here to talk about rest days. If we're working on 1 week fitness sprints and life goals sprints, and then we have every 4 weeks a more detailed checkpoint, and every 8 weeks a potentially shippable increment, a PSI of our fitness goals and our health goals, when do we rest? There's some good research to lead us to say, take a break from heavy weightlifting 1 week out of every 8. Now, still lifting weights still gives benefit, still creating some micro tears in the muscles still gives some benefit, but we'll have larger strength gains. We'll be able to get more effective micro tears the following weeks if we take 1 week off lifting heavy weights. So if we cut down to about half the working weight, or even take a week off the weights altogether. Now, for diet, there's really no known benefit as long as you're still maintaining digestive tract health. You don't have gas, you're not bloated, you're not constipated. If things are running smoothly, there's no benefit to taking a break from diet. A cheat day or a cheat week isn't necessary. Now, if you need it for emotional health or for timing for holidays or time spent with people that have different diet goals, then that's another reason entirely. And you can refer to the video we did on when cardio is useful for offsetting those things. So that's a great idea. So for rest days, every 8 weeks or every PSI, potentially shippable increment, take 1 week off the heavy weights, and that will allow you to get more benefit from lifting heavy weights the following weeks. Now you can still lift about half your current weight, and go through all the same lifts, or take a week off entirely. Although then the form, I find my form is a little harder to set in, so I prefer to keep lifting, but with a lower weight. There's one other piece about rest days. Oh, it's good to time those with testing your limits. Also, every 8 weeks, it's incredibly psychologically beneficial to test your absolute limits, whether that's weight, whether that's diet, whichever goals you're pursuing currently, posture, dental care, skin care. See what your healthy limit is. So not talking anything about joint pain, not talking anything about overextending, but absolutely talking about seeing what your 1 rep max is, your 1 repetition max, the most weight you can move once with good form in a safe way. So for those of you that are into lifting, like I'm recommending, that would be inside a power rack or other safety gear, and maybe with a spotter if that's what you need, depending on the lift. For posture, it'd be seeing if you can go for an even longer length of time with the posture you've been targeting without posture aids. For dental care, it would be seeing if you can be timing perfectly your whitening regimen or your microfiling to get the shape you want. And for diet, it would be while you're carefully paying attention to your health and you have your scrum master checking in on, are you still in the good mood you think you're in? And are you in the good mood you think you're in? And are you not dizzy and you're not fatigued? You're sharp, alert, you're able to complete what you want to complete quickly, and you're going, if you're in a cut, in a body fat reduction, you're going as long as possible without calorie intake. So you're fasting as long as possible while maintaining your focus, your digestive tract health, and again, see the video on fasting and weight loss for that. Or if you're on a bulk, that you're absolutely hitting your clean protein goals in as strict a way as possible. Doing that for 1 week out of every 8, or every 9th week in this case, is incredibly healthy for your mental ability to focus on your goals and make progress to your goals. And in some cases, and in some supporting studies, also helping your ultimate strength, your ultimate fitness, your ultimate weight loss, your ultimate muscle gain, if that's the cycle you're in, etc. So here's the increment, the rhythm that seems to work well. you have a weekly sprint with daily check-ins and then a weekly retrospective. How are you trending towards your potentially shippable increment goal? Then every 8 weeks you have your increment. That's where you're going to measure everything. It's where you're going to assess yourself, show yourself off, do what's important and motivating for you. And then that 9th week is where you rest and you bookend that, like your 8th week, with go absolutely as intense as you can, or do that your first week. Then you start your next PSI. And there seems to be good data to support that. That's the current state of the art as far as I'm aware of it now on rest. Oh, seriously. I don't think people talk enough about what we actually do when we mean rest. I mean legit rest, like meditate, make sure your heart rate is low, set low heart rate goals, breathing goals, breath training. This is where stretch, yoga, guided meditation are incredibly useful to you, refortifying your mind. The goal here, and this ties into happiness, is that you're emanating happiness from inside you. You're thinking inside what makes you happy, because happiness is a decision we get to make that comes from us in any situation we're in. It doesn't require any external anything except the means for us to be alive. Nothing else is needed. Now, it doesn't feel that way sometimes, I get that. But the goal is for us to find that happy inside us and turn it on and magnify it. Now, there's also a lot of useful truth in it's not happiness is the goal, it's peace, it's tranquility, it's stillness and being okay, it's acceptance. We can also turn on gratitude and happiness, and those can be very healthy and very motivating, very empowering, very fueling to ourselves and the people around us. So looking inside, feeling inside for what makes us feel still and accepting. A definition I find super useful that I got from a yoga instructor I was practicing with at the time was, one definition of enlightenment is having no conflict with the world. So during your rest time, a little bit every day, and especially during your rest week, it's a wonderful time to be working on your emotional health, your fortitude, and finding the part of you that has no conflict with the world. No matter what is going on in the world, you have zero conflict with it, it's okay. Then finding what allows you to be happy even in that, and attempting to magnify that. And it's not your goal, I don't think, to be happy all the time, but to be in touch with your happiness and be able to turn it on is probably a really healthy idea. And then what the Dalai Lama is currently sharing about compassion for others and how that leads to clarity of thought, directional velocity, the ability to execute on what you think is important, not being slave to our lower emotions, like if we make decisions when we're angry. There's a lot of great reasons to focus on gratitude and compassion for others. So when I say rest, that's what I'm talking about. So there's rest from exertion, and then there's attempting to find the absolute most cherished parts in you, in the way you move, in the way you think, in the way you act, speak, talk, look, and emanate gratitude, respect for all things, compassion, appreciation for all, including what might be in some ways your enemy or holding you back. A good example is, say you're really, really thirsty. When I was studying with Tom Brown, the wilderness naturalist and survivalist, I was asking, well, what's the biological advantage of when you're really thirsty, you get dizzy and you can't focus? I mean, that just sounds like you're shutting down, because Tom was leading all of us to believe, myself included, or it looked like he was trying to tell us that there's not anything wrong with the natural state. So his acceptance, like I was just talking about, there's nothing wrong with the material world, the material universe, or the universe at all, is what he was saying. So I was like, well, how do you justify your body, in my mind, failing when you're super thirsty? Well, he was saying when you're super thirsty, what's actually happening when you're dehydrated, what's actually happening is you stoop, you're looking at the ground. Like, yeah, okay, where are you going with this, Tom? And he says, and your eyes get glossy. That means it's much easier for you to see something shimmering. And you start walking in slow circles, you slow down. And you get groggy, you act drunk, which I viewed as shutting down. He made clear that actually is an advantage to helping you find water in a natural landscape. Shimmering things stand out to you. You're staring at the ground. You're moving slowly in a offset circular wander pattern to find water. You're actually at a heightened ability to find water when you need it most. I found that amazing. So even states of mind that you think might be net damaging, like severe dehydration, have a beautiful reason for existing, most likely. And thinking on those, why are you irate at your boss, or why is your boss irate at you, or whatever those things are, there's a gorgeous advantage in it as well. And when I say rest time, a little bit every day, and at least 5 minutes, 3 hours if you can. And then during your rest week, your rest sprint, just after your PSI, that's what I mean. And that creates the emotional, mental, spiritual focus and acuity to do what I'm talking about doing, to achieve what I'm talking about achieving. And that really plugs into the happiness aspect of all of this. Maybe now's a good time to talk about why I think beauty and fashion are worthwhile. I use a tactic called real options theory. And this is a popular discipline in business circles and others that says the more choices you have at any given moment, the better. Those are options in this vocabulary. And options have a cost. Maintaining them has a cost. So right now I'm in a Tokyo apartment and it has a cost. The option of me being able to stay in this apartment, I have to pay a certain amount. And if I stop paying that amount and close the apartment, I lose that option for this time. I could also have an apartment at the same time in Paris, and that option would have a cost. And I could fly back and forth between the two, and that would have a cost. So options have a cost. Also, options expire. If I don't rent a particular apartment somewhere, eventually it may be booked by somebody else, so that option expires. So options expire, options have a cost, and options have a value. When I have this option, there's the value of me staying in one of these apartments versus paying a full price hotel or a last minute Airbnb, which might be awesome, but it might not be awesome. It might not be the one I would have liked. Or I couldn't put my furniture or my stuff in it. So those are options and they have value. The more options we have, the more capability we have. That's one way of measuring freedom. So there's value in that. However, they all have a cost. Okay, so how does this work with beauty and fashion? What I seem to be observing in my life as it goes is the healthier I am, the fitter I am, the more compassionate I am, the better dressed I am, and to the extent I can, the more beautiful I am, the more options I have in all things, in work, in relationships, in friendships, in people letting me in a crowded elevator, everything. It in subtle or dramatic ways affects absolutely everything I do. Being picked to be on a team or having people contact me cold when they have an opportunity, it seems to affect everything. So I think beauty and fashion are important because, well, they're fun. I enjoy it. It is a source of pleasure and gratitude and fulfillment in some ways for me. It's a self-expression and an art. And they create options in a very real business sense. And those options have value. And what it looks like currently, measuring what it seems to be helping me do or not do is it looks like it's doubling or more my business capability. So that's a hardline value I can put on. So to put that in actionable terms, when I'm talking about skincare, when I'm talking about mole removal, when I'm talking about hair care, hair removal, when I'm talking about fashion, it looks like it's absolutely worth the money you spend up to, right about 100% of your current business capability. You'd still come across breaking even, and that would be a significant investment in your beauty and fashion. But according to my calculus, it looks like up to those levels would pay off, as intense as that is. And plus, if it's fun, that's funds or resources you might be directing that way anyway, because you find it enjoyable or fulfilling. Skincare, moles. I was born with all kinds of little moles all over, and I tried several different types of treatment. One, I went to a normal medical doctor and said, I have some moles I'd like to remove. That was before my wedding. And one healed with no visible scar, and the other on my pectoral muscle healed with, healed with a pink scar. And I asked the doc, I wanted to remove these for cosmetic reasons, what's going on? And the MD said, oh, well, when we do a surgical removal, sometimes they scar. And I thought, well, maybe that's just how it goes. So I learned the school of hard knocks that medical mole removal is not cosmetic mole removal. What I found worked for my skin type was not something called LaserMD, which heats moles and is supposed to deteriorate the pigment. That actually made mine darker. So I wouldn't recommend that. Sorry, LaserMD team, if it was performed incorrectly, contact me. We can try it again. But the medical spa where I had that tried, it did not work for me. It actually made the moles more visible. What did work is called electrocautery, and it's basically just burning. And you could do that with hot or cold. For me, it was a very hot metal tip, like a metal tip pencil, that was done by someone who'd practiced with that for a long, long time at a medical spa. And they burned the mole tips. Now, that made the moles scab, which were hyper visible for the first 3 weeks. So that was tough. That was a thing to cope with. I started putting on some makeup, which as a man was a new experience for me. But that did cover it up quite a bit from a distance. I still worked publicly during those 3 weeks. I even had some videos filmed that are on television, or were at that time. After 3 weeks, the scabs dried and fell off, and I had little red spots. And they were about as red as the moles before had been brown. So it looked basically the same. And I found I could cover them up with foundation or a pigmented sunscreen. And sunscreen seems to be a really good idea anyway. And about 3 months later, the pink spots were almost completely gone. So that was the total impact time. And that worked really well. So the moles I have now are either moles that did not have electrocautery done to them, or are much lighter than they had been before. So in some cases, the burn, because that's what it's happening, it's actually burning away the pigmented tissue, didn't go deep enough. And so after the scab area sloughed off, there was still some pigment because the mole was deep. The pigmented tissue was deep. So I would recommend doing that sooner rather than later. It wasn't super cheap. I spent $2,500 to have almost all of mine treated, and I had some laser hair removal done at the same time on my shoulders and my back. Now, it turns out it really depends on the intensity of laser hair removal and the skill of the practitioner, whether it works or not. One practitioner with the same machine on my back had great success. I'd had 6 treatments before with the same machine, but a different practitioner on my shoulders and back, 0 results. So it very much depends on the quality of the practitioner using the machine and as far as I know now, the machine's irrelevant because the same machine was very successful with a different practitioner. That's what I think I'm learning about hair removal. My suggestion, Joe's school of logic on this, is do it sooner rather than later. There's never a good time to have 3 weeks of scabs from wherever you may have had moles. There's never a convenient time for that. Just do it. Do it right away and do it early, because every week after that is more convenient, is better by my calculus, by the calculus I explained before. So I would say do it right away. There's never a good time to do it. Just do it. Bear through the time of wearing foundation, or if you already wear foundation, extra foundation, or just have cave time, or if you can do it, go on a vacation somewhere not sunny for 3 weeks, because you don't want to be in the sun while you have healing happening, significant healing happening on your skin. I'd say do it immediately. Then for the hair removal, same thing. I'd say do it immediately. I found a dramatically different visibility in my musculature when I shaved the hair on my chest. And it looks like that's true everywhere on my body. So having all hair removed from the neck down, at least, seems to really be a good look in general. At first, I found on my joints, like I have underarm hair, they'd stick when running, when doing cardio, and I'd get a lot of sweat. I found the hair actually creates lubricancy with sweat, and there's a reason why it's there in high rub areas. However, interestingly, I did get used to it, and so my skin got used to it. So after removing hair from even joint areas, it seemed the lubrication effect where the hair rolls, because that's why it's round and it's usually more coarse there, it seems the skin compensated. So that seems to work okay. So I'll recommend that too. And I lost the hair on my head to the extent that surgical hair replacement, I was told I didn't have enough donor hair for the current technology, and hair cloning isn't available in mass yet. I haven't yet done permanent removal. I shave every day to every 3 days, which is super annoying. So I'm thinking about doing permanent removal of the hair on my head. I'll say shaving the head is a way better look for most people than having any type of hair growth that's not full coverage in the shape you want. I'll also say, although I haven't experimented much with this myself yet, although I'm interested, it appears that almost every single head of hair you've ever seen in a film and most heads of hair you've ever seen in a commercial are a wig on a man or a woman. All of them. Please let that settle in for a minute. And then I'll encourage you to think about treating your hair in a wig just like you would which shirt or shoes you might wear. I'm considering it myself. We'll see how that goes. And for me, there's a hurdle of, well, am I lying? Am I misrepresenting? Well, maybe not any more than when I wear a jacket and it changes my body shape. And maybe the cut of the shoulders accentuates my shoulders. Maybe it's not any different. Especially if I'm not lying and saying, look, this is my hair, right? If I'm saying, no, this is the look I have today. And if I'm upfront about changing those styles periodically, well, that might be super fun. So I think it might be a good idea. We'll see how people around us, me, deal with it. They might find it disorienting, difficult to recognize. So that's a thought to check on. For people that have already gotten knowledge about that, please share. Yeah. So we've covered some of why beauty. We haven't gone into posture or dental yet. Those will have to come soon. And the main scope, the first scope, was resting. Hope this video was helpful to a lot of you. And stay beautiful, healthy, wealthy, wise, friendly, fulfilled. enlightened, all those things, and have an amazing day.